I recommend plant-dominant diets like the Mediterranean diet often to people because I just think it's easier.
Oh, that's what you called. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I myself am vegan, and I often say
right.
I have 6 reasons for being vegan, and then they ask what they are, and I rattle off like 7 or 8, depending on how many I can remember. But health is one of them.
So okay.
That the Mediterranean diet might be the healthiest, even though it contains animal products, but you yourself are vegan.
I'm not sure anyone really knows. Like Walter Longo is probably the most qualified to speak on this. He's a longevity researcher and of Italian descent and a professor at USC. And he's done a lot of studies on it. He thinks whole plant dominant diets with a small portion of fish twice a week is probably the healthiest. So I worry a little bit about the no fish part of it. The Seventh-day Adventist studies are all very clear that the vegans have the best BMIs, lowest chance of diabetes and everything else. But the pescatarians live about the same amount of time. So the vegans are healthier during their life, but they don't live longer than pescatarian. I don't know. I don't.
I mean, it's important, I think, to also look at it. What is it in the fish, right? And it's probably the really high concentrations of omega-3s, and where can we get that source, possibly from where the fish get the source, right from the sea. So, but I have a good friend who's a PhD and is a professor of diet, disease, and exercise at Chapman University. And he has gone through a traumatic brain injury. It happened about 2 years ago from a heart attack on a bike, where he has the athlete's heart and AFib combination, right? And so and then he had a heart attack and was out cold and fell and got the brain injury. But he's in a brain injury support group, a very large one. And people are in this support group from all over the world and have had brain injuries for 20 and 30 years. These people have. And so he is healing faster than many of them who have been in this group for 20 years and have, their brain injury was 25 years ago. And so they asked him to do a presentation on diet, to understand. Is really the only difference that, and he exercises every day. And as I've learned from him, when you have a brain injury, especially in the beginning, it's so depressive that it is really difficult to even walk out the front door and to even go on a walk. I mean, I saw him in such a dark space, and this is somebody who's exercised literally every day since he was 5 years old. So besides the exercise, it's his diet that's the different. And he follows a strict whole food plant-based diet. Like he eats like a literal monk, what we've seen him. But he puts a little bit of fish in as well. And the day that I heard him give this, because I was lucky enough to be able to come in on Zoom and listen to this presentation that he was giving the group, so much of what we've talked about on this podcast, Alexandra, like so many of the stats and so many, deep dive into understanding different foods and why they're so powerful. I was speaking at a Veg Fest in Louisville right after Dr. Kim Williams. So I got to catch the end of Dr. Kim Williams' talks, and people were asking a lot about fish because there's we have quite a bit of evidence, right, in the Mediterranean diet, and that it's the healthiest. And he said, all of that is fine. And that is that evidence. But the way that we are treating and polluting our oceans, we are literally poisoning ourselves if we're eating fish from, because there is so much wrong, I guess I'll just say, with the fish, the meat from the fish from the fish, that it's just downright dangerous at this point to be consuming. So that was kind of a wow moment. I don't eat fish, but anyway, I went back to Dr. Sternlicht and said, you got to look deeper into this, and I got to get you because Kim Williams had some references of the pollution. So I think, we're not, everything's not created equal, maybe food wise, like it was so many, many years ago, with what we're doing to our planet and our environment.
Yeah. I often say about fish, you may be able to eat some kinds of fish now still and help wreck the planet while you do it. Being an earth scientist, it's a huge worry for me.
Right.
But you're not going to be able to do it for much longer. The way we're treating our waterways, all the stuff that's going into the waterways, which goes into the oceans, which goes into the fish. I think we're left with, do the omega-3 pills work? And I don't know. I mean, there are a few
Well, there's
things.
algae too. I mean, the fish eat algae. So you don't have to take a supplement. You can eat a food.
Yeah,
And then there's the ethical part, which is fish feel.
absolutely.
Ethical. So there's many. So what I understand from you, Chris, is that you recognize that there might be health benefits to eating fish, but you've chosen not to for
Correct.
the 10 reasons, 5 to 10
Whatever they
reasons.
are.
I like 6 even. Give us 6.
Give
Your
us
top
some of
6.
them. Rattle
want
off
to say-
some of them, especially from your earth science background.
You want me to rattle off? Okay, so health is one. My earth science background, I consider the planet as being number 2, but it has a lot of things in there. Global warming is one, land and water use, deforestation, pollution. So there's so a third reason would be antibiotic resistance, which is becoming pretty scary. Then there's pathogens.
They feed the fish in these, well, it's with meat too, but they feed the fish in these farms with antibiotics.
Yeah. And chickens and pigs and cows and everything. I mean, it's a really scary thing in the hospitals to see. And for parents of children, when they get something where an antibiotic can no longer fix it. And a lot of that is because the antibiotics are being given to farm animals. I know about the bioconcentration of like pesticides and so on. So, the cows are fed the corn or grain or whatever. Chickens are fed the corn. And there's not as many regulations on spraying those crops for animals. And then they get into the animals and they concentrate in their fat, and then we eat their fat. And so you think you're doing good by not eating crops that are sprayed, but you actually are just secondhand. So did I go through 6 reasons? Oh, well, there's the way we treat animals, which is just a horror show. Ezra Klein wrote a piece for the New York Times saying future generations will look back in horror at the way we're treating animals. And I think he's going to end up on the right side of history.